Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe for more M3 content. So in today's video, we're gonna go over my 3-week experience with this BMW F80 M3. So right now we're on our way to Target. I'm gonna pick up a second SD card for my other GoPro. I couldn't find another micro SD card at my house. I have a bunch of normal SD cards, but I couldn't find a micro SD. So we're gonna stop by Target right now and we're gonna pick up another SD card, and after that I'm gonna let you guys know my 3-week experience with this F80 M3.
It doesn't even make sense why I think about you. It was only one night, only that time, and it's not my style to be caught up in the middle like this. 'Cause now I dream about you. I was probably too drunk, it's blurry, but I've got the image of you running circles in my mind right now. And it could fade away, but it probably won't, and I should let it be.
So we're leaving Target right now. We're gonna take a little drive. So I've always wanted an M3. When I was in high school, I graduated in 06. I wanted an M3, and I've always liked BMWs. So the first car I bought on my own was a Ford Mustang. So I guess that was just like the most expensive car I could afford that was still rear-wheel drive and fun. So after the Ford Mustang, I had an Infiniti G37. And then I bought the BMW F30 335i, and I have Ford F-150 Lightning right now, and this is my second car. This is basically my daily F80 M3. So yeah, I've always wanted an M3, but so I decided to buy a new car maybe a couple months ago, and I was actually looking at the ATS-V. So my friend has a CTS-V, so I guess I wanted like the smaller version of that. I liked his car, so I think an ATS-V would have been a cool car. So I was looking for ATS-Vs, and I could find them in low 30s, mid 30s. I wanted the sedan. I didn't want the coupe. I think the sedan looks a lot better. So then the pandemic happened, and I seen the prices of ATS-Vs go up. So they were closer to 40 grand for the options I wanted. So I wanted the track package on it, which with all the carbon fiber parts on it, and I also wanted the sport seats. So yeah, those are the couple options I wanted in that car. So yeah, they were getting closer to 40 grand. So then I had a conversation with my fiance about what car I should get. And she's like, you always wanted an M3, so why don't you look into M3s? But I thought they were all over $40,000, and I didn't want to spend 40 grand on a car right now, or over 40 grand. But then I started looking at them again, at M3s and M4s, because I've noticed that M4s were actually lower in price than M3s, which is kind of weird because M4s were more expensive when they were new, and now it's like the other way around. I guess people want the more practical car, so that's why the M3s are more expensive. But I started seeing M3s with 50, 60,000 miles for around 40 grand, a little under 40 grand. So yeah, that's how I wound up with this car. I was searching all over the country, and I found the spec I wanted in Virginia. So this is basically fully loaded besides the carbon ceramic brakes. So I think that's the only option I'm missing. Which I didn't want the carbon ceramic brakes because the cost of replacing that is just way too high. So this was like the perfect spec. It has 50,000 miles on it. So it's decently low mileage, and if anything goes wrong on it, I can fix most issues on it. So I wasn't worried too much about it. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you guys about my 3-week experience with this car. So obviously I love this car. My F30 was tuned. I had the stage 1 boot mode tune on it, so it wasn't fully stock. I had the charge pipes, intake, so it was like making a little bit more power, a lot more torque I think, than just horsepower. So getting into this car, I don't think it feels as fast from the get-go, like taking off. It's probably quicker, but the power comes on differently. So this engine revs a lot more. The problem with the N55, I felt like it was losing power quickly. So off the line, it was a pretty quick car, but then in a higher rev range, you were kind of losing power. So with this car, I think it pulls very hard to redline. There's not that initial jolt, I think, at the beginning, but it's probably still quicker off the line, but it doesn't feel as quick. I don't know if you guys know what I mean. But yeah, it obviously has power throughout the rev range, and this engine wants to be revved out. You know, the red line is a lot higher on these cars. So another thing, obviously anyone who owns a 335, 340, they buy parts to make it look kind of like an M3, because obviously the M3 is a sportier car, so you know, they get the wider fenders, the M-style bumper, you know, you modify the interior with the M-style, you know, the performance where you can get the Alcantara trim and stuff. And obviously, instead of doing all those upgrades, you can just buy an M3 and you have most of those parts obviously installed on it, obviously depending on the spec, you know, how much carbon fiber parts you get on your car. So that's why I love the way this car looks from the outside, you know. Whenever I go to the store or something, I always turn around and I guess, you know, take a second look at the car. So, you know, if you have a car and you don't turn around and park a lot to check it out, I think you bought the wrong car. But yeah, another thing about this car, the interior looks obviously very similar to the F30 or any of the 3 Series, because obviously this car is based off of 3 Series. But I have the extended leather in here. Obviously the seats are a lot different in this car. You know, they're a lot more sporty and they hug you a lot more than the 335 seats. You know, the 335 seats still have bolstering, but you're a lot, you know, you're held a lot better, you know, when you take corners and stuff like that. One big thing, when I left the dealership with this car, I didn't realize how low this car actually is. So when you leave parking lots and stuff like that, you kind of got to take it at an angle and be careful so you don't scrape. You know, I scraped a couple times already in this car. Obviously this is a used car, so whoever had this car before already scraped the bottom a few places. So yeah, another thing, when I was purchasing this car, I assumed this car doesn't sound very good, because any YouTube review you watch of this car, they complain about the way it sounds, which obviously this isn't a V8 or anything. The car replaced, obviously that car sounds a lot better because it's a naturally aspirated V8. You know, this is a twin turbo straight 6, so it sounds a lot differently. But I still love the way this car sounds. The cold start sounds awesome. You can open the valves very easily by going into sports mode. And comparing from efficient sport to sports plus, this car has different characteristics of exhaust sound. Right now I have a boot mode tune on this car, so obviously it kind of burbles a lot more. I did like a custom burble on this, so you know, it's obviously not fully stock, but obviously the exhaust and everything is stock. So I think this car sounds great. Obviously if you get a mid-pipe or an exhaust, it will sound even better. But if you're purchasing one of these cars, I guess don't listen to all the YouTube reviews, how this car sounds, how, you know, they hate the way this car sounds. Just, you know, test drive one of these and, you know, judge it yourself. But yeah, just from stock, this car is pretty loud, I think. You know, when you're accelerating and stuff like that, it's pretty loud. If you're familiar with these cars have active sound inside of them. So if you go into Sport or Sports Plus, you get like artificial noise inside the cabin. I reprogrammed that out actually, because I'll rather hear the real exhaust sound outside and not this fake engine sound pumped inside. So I'll probably make a video on all the little programming things I've done to this car to, I guess, personalize it and have it the way I like it. So this car, it has the M adjustable suspension. So it's obviously a lot more of a stiff ride than this car has the M adjustable suspension, so it's a lot stiffer of a ride than like a 3 Series or stuff like that. So this in the softest setting is still a lot more stiff than like a 3 Series with the sports suspension in the hardest setting. So I guess get used to it if this is going to be your daily driver. Obviously, if you're looking at this car, you're looking at something more sporty, but I guess get used to the harder ride in this car. But yeah, that acceleration never gets old. Right now I'm in Sports Plus, and I think you guys can hear how this engine sounds. It's addicting, and it gets you in trouble a lot, so I guess you gotta be careful. And if you guys can hear, in Sports Plus, when it downshifts, it rev matches a lot more aggressively than in sports mode or efficient. So when I'm deaccelerating, you can hear it rev matching, and it's pretty cool. And obviously it holds the gears a lot longer. But yeah, I don't regret purchasing this car at all. Obviously, who would regret it? You know, any car person going from a normal 3 Series to M3 obviously will enjoy this car. And another thing I've noticed about this car, just looking for aftermarket parts, I feel like there's a lot of the parts are actually cheaper than for the F30, probably because a lot more companies make parts for this car. So I feel like it's a lot easier to find you know, aftermarket carbon fiber, stuff like that, parts for this car than the F30, which you can kind of price shop a lot more and, you know, get a deal on certain carbon fiber parts and stuff. So the aftermarket support on these cars is amazing, a lot better than a normal F30. But yeah, my 3-week experience with this car, I love everything about it. I love the suspension, I love the engine, I love the way this car accelerates. Obviously the main part of this car is how it handles. So the brakes are a lot better, it stops a lot better, handling is amazing when you put it in Sports Plus mode. Obviously if the road is kind of rough, you're gonna feel every bump, but you know, if you're on you know, smooth surface, taking turns and stuff, you know, this car handles amazing. But yeah, if you guys are in a market for one of these cars, I recommend purchasing it. Right now, like I said, the prices are around 40 grand for like a 2015, 2016. Obviously, if you want a competition package or you want the LCI, you're gonna have to pay probably closer to 50 grand. But yeah, I think the 2015s are a pretty good deal. The suspension and everything is obviously still really stiff, it handles very good, and I think you can daily the normal M3 a lot better than the CS. I mean the competition, sorry about that. Obviously the CS too. But yeah, that was a fuel light. But yeah, thanks for checking out my video, guys. I'm gonna make more videos on this. A couple of the mods I want to do to this car is I'm gonna put probably spacers on it. I'm gonna put some carbon fiber parts on the front of it. And obviously I'll probably do a mid-pipe at some point or another and just keep the rest of the exhaust stock and see how it sounds from there. And then if anything, you know, I'll do other mods and upgrades and stuff like that. But yeah, thank you for checking this video out, guys, and stay tuned for more of my videos.